since we get this under public
Can I
comment.
give you my email, write down my email address and somebody can contact me if they want me to come back?
Yes.
I don't have a card or anything.
I may. And I don't.
I mean,
Yeah, if you want to provide the email, we can
yeah,
just
okay, let me do
invite you
that.
back to the next meeting.
Let me give you
Give us.
a piece of paper.
You can come over here and write it on my agenda if that's probably the best thing to
All
do.
right, all right, thank you. Sorry to
No.
interrupt your business flow here.
I'm just
All
kidding.
right, thanks.
I have a comment about that.
Go ahead.
When we run the Columbus Day half marathon, or that the thing that we run, we don't station monitor at every intersection, all the way down Fairgrounds, down around Boulevard, down the beach, and then back down that direction down Tom Nevers Road. We put a monitor at that intersection. Because between the runners coming down, the cars whipping out, and they don't stop back at the dirt, they stop across the bike path. There are bikes coming down, there are runners coming down. So even we acknowledge, the racing people have acknowledged that that is a real flashpoint for people meeting up in the wrong way.
Okay. Well, we'll follow up with you and just double check the improvement plans just to make sure that what you're requesting isn't already being planned. If not, then
Well, it seemed
we'll look into
reasonable
it.
given that every other road has the stop signs.
Understood.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Linda, do you know, could that be improved just by pruning some of the brush down the
It
sidewalk?
may, on the corners, the people coming out may. It increase the visibility of a vehicle coming out there.
Right.
But he's right, it goes down,
Right.
it's sort of in a tipping point right at the, I hate that phrase now, sort of at that point.
Apex or
And I don't know if rumble strips like the Cliff Road bike path, to make people aware that you're coming to something that they may have to watch out for.
Right.
Maybe a stop sign, but they're coming down that hill really fast. And I don't know if they'll stop, but at least they'll be aware, like on Cliff Road, that you're coming to a cross street.
Understood.
And, maybe a yellow line there or something, like you can see it on the Cliff Road bike path, that works up there. So maybe on that, it might help.
Sure. Ray?
The stop signs for that were installed last year when I did every bike path on the aisle.
Okay.
That just means that they were removed, and that just means that people need to call when they're
Okay.
missing, so I can go fix them.
Okay.
I would love to go out and throw them up if that's what everybody said. I mean, they were there.
Okay.
So it's just, to me, it's just replacing the signs, I guess.
All right. So we got some follow-up to do. So if in the meantime, I'll reach out to John and just verify what was in the plan. If this needs to be an issue we take up next month, we'll take it up next month. And Robert, you and I can probably talk and maybe do a site visit at some point.
I would
between now and
say
the next
this, Mike, honestly, if it's something that you're able to check the
Uh-huh.
milestone safety improvement plan today,
Okay.
because to me, if we've already installed them and they've been removed, to me, it's an eminent public safety threat, and I would hate to have someone get injured there, given the history of the summer months, particularly from last year. I'd hate to go through that. If they've already been installed and they've been removed, if they need to go back up, they should go back up immediately, in my opinion.
Yeah, because anytime we lose a stop sign that gets hit by a car, we go out and replace it right away.
Yep.
It just happened on Cummings Pond Road last week or whatever. It was an accident there, and we replaced it right away. They were there. I remember replacing those actually. So
They don't always pay attention.
I'd love to
them.
put a little bit bigger ones there, but they're not going to stop through there, especially going at that speed.
They don't even stop at mine, which is, South Shore Road and Surfside Bike Path. They just,
I can put them up to that after the meeting if I don't need. Yeah.
Oh, Mike's been very
We might as well
resourceful.
have them if they were there. We might as well have them there.
Everything is online.
Everything's
I
online.
didn't remove it.
It's good.
It was stolen or not.
We'll look for Rob's social security number next. While this is still loading up, I'll.
Yeah, I mean, I've got it here, I'm not seeing the signs. It's on sheet 12.
Okay. All right, you're looking at the signage and marking plan?
Possibly not.
Yeah, the construction plan, I don't think has any of the signs shown.
That explains that.
Let's follow up with that at the end of the meeting, if that's all right, while this is loading, and we'll
That's
just
fine.
continue on. All right, any other public comment at all from anyone? Seeing none, that's under official business. Item number 1, review proposed Lovers Lane, Orkawa Avenue, Montahasset Road improvements. This is an ongoing item we have just for updates. Rob, is there anything new to report?
Yeah, I've been meeting with a number of residents or butters with regard to drainage easements. So those are earliest conversations. We still have quite a few to deal with. I've asked the engineer to put together a comprehensive list of proposed abutters that would be impacted by right-of-way, either takings or easements as well, which would be the next level of discussions and involve more people. But right now, it's really just drainage discussions to get up to speed with what the concept designs are and ultimately let them know what we're asking for and see if they're on board before we put a big level of effort into design.
Okay,
So it's moving forward.
sure. Yes.
When we were doing the Surfside area plan, we were in contact with Andrew about completing the takings down off of Montahasset. And I guess that part of Lover's Lane. And Andrew I thought we had sent out a letter to everybody on Okra, Montahasset, Lover's Lane, Okra, Montahasset at that time. That was some years ago.
That's about the taking of the right-of-way.
Yeah,
This is totally different. This is now the improvement of that roadway.
getting rid
all
of Lake
three.
Okra.
So it's going to be involving having the bike path sort of converge and diverge away from the road back and forth. So that goes into private property. So it's just a different approach, similar, but it's different.
They were all aware of this was.
Oh yeah, we've had probably 6 public information sessions already.
Right.
All right. Anything else to report on that item?
No.
Okay. Moving on to item number 2, request for recommendation to remove 1 on-street parking space at 7 Westchester Street to create new driveway parking space. And I'll try to find, Linda, you here on this
I have
issue?
hard copies if you can't find it.
No, it's in the packet. I'll just scroll all the way down to, that's a Surfside issue. There's more of the flooding that we did. There we go. And let me try to find the plan here.
Keep going, I think I've got on.
There's no driveway currently?
No, it had all 20 years ago been part of the house to the left,
There we go.
and then it had split up, and they park on the street now, and so they're, sometimes because of the 2-hour parking, they're parking all the way down North Liberty to get back to the house, or all the way down going towards Cliff Road to get back to the house.
Mm-hmm.
So they're doing a lot of improvement, getting their yard off literally from the one to the left. So they're moving walls around and the walkways around so they come directly in instead of everybody sharing a walkway and a wall. And the HDC was okay with it.
How many parking spaces are they creating?
1. They can't get any further because once you hit the head of that car, it's a substantial retaining wall. And then the grade goes straight uphill. I mean, literally, the house is way uphill, just under the oldest house in the back.
So I do see steps
Is
from
there
the
an
park.
opportunity to put parking off of Wires Lane?
No, we don't have any rights up there. And we couldn't get anywhere, given where the house is in the lot line, you couldn't get anywhere near it up there.
Looks like they have frontage on Wires Lane.
No, they still couldn't get in there. And it's questionable whether they have rights in Wires Lane. If they don't, they can't get in there. It always had rights out of Westchester. And Wires is a private road. And there's nowhere to put a parking space up there because of how close the lot line is. Because the other lot line was drawn around both houses in order to keep the setbacks correct. And it's quite steep coming down from there. So essentially what they're doing is they're taking their own parking space and putting it on their lot so they can actually have a parking space.
Mike, what's the rule?
The guideline we use is that there's a net gain of parking. If we remove one parking space, there has to be more than one created off-street to justify the removal of public parking. Typically what that means is 2 parking spaces in a lot, either stacked or side by side.
But in this case, you got a wackadoodle lot
Yeah.
and a substantial grade change from Westchester all the way up to the other houses.
We've used that as a rule, Rob. I don't think we've had a case where we couldn't find an extra parking space somewhere on the lot. I think we've had plans redrawn so they created an extra space, or the architect knew ahead of time, the landscape architect knew ahead of time that that was gonna be required.
Yeah, Lombardi looked at that, and because of the grade change and the increase in a retaining wall from Westchester, that wouldn't have gone over well with the HDC more than likely. And the grade change is so substantial, it would be quite steep.
Okay, so these
We'd have
are,
to cut into the grade.
these plans were approved by HDC?
Yeah.
Okay, and where is this now? Is this through a driveway application through the DPW and you're
Haven't
just,
seen it.
Yeah, it got sent back to me approved, but I said, wait a minute, I can't do that because you guys haven't approved it yet. So it did come back to me by email from the DPW. So Rob, I don't know who looked at it, but they did send
Yeah,
it back to
Steven
me.
signed it, so I'll check in with them.
Okay.
Linda, does the next door neighbor to the left, to the west, do they have off-street parking?
On the other side of the house.
Yeah.
There's a lot of, in my time in the HDC, there've been a lot of requests for parking on site as people have changed ownership, and that's always been granted. I don't know one that hasn't been granted. Some of these guys have 3 across, or deep enough because they're flat enough to have, stacked parking. This is the only one that, if you look at the GIS map, it's really not the only one that's got this weird shape with that substantial grade change.
So this is getting split off. What's the residence that it's being split
It's
from?
been split for 20 years.
Okay.
It's just that the same family owned it. Now, the same family doesn't own it.
So the
They've
one
had it for
that,
some time.
the other house to the left, what do they have for parking?
I think they have one space, as I recall. I don't know where it is, but I think they have one. I looked at it.
I just look at, I guess, like, if,
I think it's to the left of their house. They have a brick space. They cram those spaces in wherever they can get them out there.
Art, help me remember, this is a 12 by 18 space. We go,
So
is it
the-
20 feet for?
It's 9 by 20 is what's required by zoning, but for residential, you're allowed to do one reduced spot at 7 by 17.
Okay.
We're 12, I think, wide to get into it because we have the retaining wall on both sides of the parking space. And they've got a small flare, so they restricted us.
Okay. Any questions from anyone else? Is there,
My only point or thing that needs to be looked at is how the sidewalk is going to be modified
Level.
as part of this.
well, all the sidewalks with driveways through them would have to be handicap accessible.
Yeah.
So I just think there should be a condition, either as part of our approval or the DPW's approval.
It's my
that-
understanding, Art, that it's gonna be level across and just have a small flare down to Westchester.
let's finish the thought here.
Yeah, to me, that all comes with, the kind of, if everything follows the policy, right? And I think what I'm hearing is that they're not able to meet the policy, which is having a net gain in parking. I'm interested to hear more from the committee about
Yeah,
what that looks like, because to me, if we already have a policy in place and we take action that is contrary to that, I'm guessing we're gonna get the similar reaction that we have had in the past from the select board, which is what is going on.
I guess procedurally, we could always recommend not to approve, and then this would be kicked to the select board, and then you'd have to ask for consideration, and then we would just justify our recommendation against by saying there's not a net gain in off-street parking. And that would just be an argument for the select board, because I don't know if we want to test the tolerance on this policy with us. Go ahead, Linda.
Having dealt with multiple boards and policy, and Jack's the same thing, there are exceptions to a policy. It's not a rule, it's a policy. When you have unique mitigating circumstances, which if they wanted to make a favorable recommendation or no recommendation as opposed to a negative recommendation based on the uniqueness, grade change, and all the rest of the stuff that goes along with just this one lot. It's the narrowest lot, from what I can tell, along that strip that's held in separate ownership. And if you want to do that, you can make it just particular to this, so you don't open up a whole hornet's nest of precedent for anybody else, because it's a sort of a unique situation.
Yeah.
Well, why wouldn't we approve this? I mean, this is just a matter of getting the car straight in and out of there.
Yeah.
And the sidewalk. I
I think the spirit of the policy is that because we're impacting public parking, which is a scarce resource in this area, we'd like to see 2 off-street parking spaces. The idea being that they're not contributing to additional, taking away opportunities for other people from the public to use parking. If they had a second car, for instance, put both cars into the driveway. Just so you're expanding the inventory of spaces for public or private.
I just figured anytime you get a car off the street,
Yeah.
that's a plus.
Yeah.
But it's not in this case, Jack, because you're taking away an existing on-street parking space.
Which they're parking in.
Which they would be parking in front of the house anyway, if they can find it.
If they can find it.
I mean, the only other thing I could think of looking at this, I know you mentioned the how extreme the grades are, but at the same time, perhaps with more extensive retaining walls. I know it's a big deal, but it's just another option to look at. There would be possibly a way to somehow, get too deep in there. I understand it would be, take out the tree and expensive, but it's just a thought.
The HCC was pretty strict about those trees.
Do you know what the grade change is from the street to the
No, I'd have to go back and have somebody shoot that, but you can see the steps there, and then it goes uphill to the house, and then there's steps into the house, so it's pretty easy to eyeball it from the street. I've given you a bunch of pictures from the street, but there's a lot of foliage in there.
Yeah, I'm only suggesting it in terms of if you're trying to meet the policy, or maybe, as challenging as it may be, that might just be the way that ultimately gets you to yes.
Again, it's an extreme situation, not like anybody else on the street, so it's up to you guys. But that would be our argument at this point, but I'd rather have no recommendation than a negative recommendation, given the particulars of this lot.
Well, we could entertain a motion for no action, or a motion to not recommend, or a motion to recommend. Art, Jack, Mickey, Bill, Rob, anybody want to make a motion?
Yeah, I mean, just based on the face of it, and I do understand the complexities here, but I would say, just in keeping with the policy, I would make a recommendation to deny this application in its current state.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Any discussion on the motion? All right, all those in favor say aye. Any opposed? Let's make that unanimous, and we'll just try to word a memo to the town administration that, this is purely based on just the spirit of the policy. And I think the next step is just to go to
You know how I
the
feel
select
about
board.
policy versus rule.
it's,
ACC's the worst.
I think you get the frustration with this issue, but
When does it,
anyway.
how does it get to the selectmen? When does it go to the selectmen?
It requires approval, so we would just
You
provide,
Is it next week?
You would
or
have
is
to
it-
move it probably to them, to appeal this decision.
Or do you guys just send it to them, or do,
we follow up with a memorandum of, the minutes serve as a record. You could always take a proactive recommendation, send a letter saying that we actually did make a recommendation against. You would like to still have the select board approve the curb cut, but it's with a negative recommendation from traffic safety.
now do I have to wait till you transmit that to them, or do we get on next week's Board of Selectmen?
Honestly, you
or
could
is
do it,
months in advance,
and
months out?
you can start that right now, actually,
Okay.
because we have minutes taken, there'll be draft, and then eventually they'll be approved.
Okay,
We just also follow up with memorandums to the town manager, let town administration know, what our actions are.
So I let
But
everything
you would
know,
need to be
still put it on
proactive with
there?
that.
okay. But is it an official appeal, or just, we would like to get on the selectmen's agenda?
Well, you're not appealing this, we advise the select board
Okay.
of what to do. They kick it, they ask us for a recommendation, we're gonna recommend against it. You would ask them to still approve it, but it would be with a negative recommendation. But I think we all kind of know the issue here.
If I may, it seems to me that it's actually the curb cut driveway access permit application, which needs to be signed by the BOS, or excuse me, now the select board. So this application, which we have a copy of, remains incomplete because it's not approved by the select board. So I think you have to yourself take this application, unless it goes through the DPW to the select board, you'd have to submit the same application to them for approval.
Yeah, well,
Eric has got a copy of
the
it.
problem that was, the misstep here is this was already signed by the deputy,
Yeah,
not knowing the procedure here that it needed to go to traffic safety before it can even be signed. There should be a spot on the application that talks about, does this remove a place from the public parking? And if so, that has to go
it does, it
here.
says
Yeah.
yes, parking space eliminated, yes, right here,
Yeah.
so I don't know,
So
But it's
got-
blank.
we missed that, I guess.
For BOS approved, so it
Right.
just
No, I get
seems-
that. So the point is though, it would start with DPW, right? And the DPW would kick it back and say, no, you need to get traffic safety approval before this goes forward. But it clearly has been signed already by DPW, shouldn't have been. So at this point, even still, they need to go to get on the agenda in front of the select board to have this discussion.
I was surprised when it did come back. Signed.
Okay. So do you know what the next step is for?
No, I'm gonna call Eric.
Okay. In short, it'd probably be a letter from you to the selectmen, or
Okay.
select board, asking for approval of this, and that would just get it on the agenda. You could always go into public comment and ask for it to be added to a future meeting agenda as well, if you
I'll
wanted
just
to.
call Erica now.
Okay,
Thanks, guys.
thank you.
Rain's coming.
The item number 3, request for a right turn only sign across the driveway at 125 Orange Street. There are some pictures in the packet showing where the new signage should go. Actually, no, there's not. Let me see if
Yeah, we had a picture in a packet.
Yep.
It makes sense to me.
Okay.
Right turn only from behind,
No, it's from across the street. I read it, I was confused too. It's not about coming out of
Henry's.
tackle store, it's from coming out of the other place.
From Bear Street,
From the place with the big
From
like,
here.
shell
Yeah.
parking lot.
looking across Bear.
Yeah,
Take a left.
so you can only go right.
Yeah. Just so you know, the current signage there is a do not enter sign, like 3 feet off the ground. It looks like it's private.
That's private.
That's do
Yeah.
not enter into Henry's.
Into Henry's.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Correct, and that probably should be a right turn only, similar to the signage that's coming out of the Hatches property.
Yep. That's pretty clear.
Make a motion to install a right turn only sign.
How did this come in? I'm sorry.
Nicole, Lynn from Reed Builders, they must have an office maybe in 125, I'm guessing,
Yeah.
but I don't know. Yeah, 125 Orange LLC, so maybe it was on behalf of them.
Gotcha. Sorry, your motion.
I motion to install the sign as requested.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Unanimous? Rob, is that something that we would, how do you want the communication on that?
It should be added to the action list.
Okay,
I would guess we could put the do not enter, combine it on a single post.
it's
Yeah,
gonna need a
that's
new post.
private, that's a totally private sign, private post and everything, I would have to install a whole new post there, or buy that fence one way or the other, or, I saw the other picture, it looked like I actually could move the existing one way from coming out of there and put it on the back of that, and you'd have it on both ways, I don't know if that would work visibility wise. If you want it on that side, I gotta put it probably a little further up. But like, if I move that over to the right of that telephone pole,
Like right here?
then when they're coming out, they're gonna see it's a one-way pointing right,
Yeah, that's not a bad idea.
and then it's one. Hmm? Yeah, the one way here is for that, for the, where we're coming from, and then the other one, I'm talking about.
Put 'em back to back.
Back to back on the same
Yeah.
post,
Yeah,
if there's enough.
whether
room.
it's right turn only or just one
If-
way.
Yeah, if I can get it in there,
Yeah.
that's the only issue.
You get some underground conduit there.
All right. So we'll add it to the action list as a, to be installed by DPW and kind of leave the artistry of how this works to
Yeah, and I can
the artist.
on the other side too.
Yep,
It's wrong, I just don't know what's in there.
okay.
All right, the next item on the agenda is a request for no parking one side of Washington Avenue. This is a request from Roads and Right of Way and from the NRTA. They're,
We used to have them all along there, but they're all taken down.
yeah, the only signage out there is what's in the picture in the packet, and this is no parking either side of street. There's one, both are in the vicinity of Washington Street, or excuse me, Washington Avenue at Nantucket Road. One posted on the stop sign and the one, I don't know, 100 feet back. So it is signed for no parking either side for this corridor. Not thoroughly signed, but there is some signage. So it's a request from Roads and Right of Way and NRTA to allow parking on one side of the road. Not really a lot of guidance on which side.
See, the buses want no parking on the right side, so they can get on the right side, you know, to make that left-hand turn on the Nantucket Road. They wanna be on the right side of the road. They can't, if they're in the left-hand lane, they can't make that left turn.
Well, I don't think we'd want parking within the vicinity of that intersection at all,
Oh.
right? So probably pick a distance, 100 feet back, probably where the existing regulatory sign is for no parking. That probably should be no parking here to corner either side.
Why not have no parking at all on that right-hand side? Let them park on the left side. That way the bus can go straight down the road without having to change lanes.
Okay. So on the map, the southeast side of the road, or the harbor side of the road.
The harbor side of the road, you want no parking.
No parking on the harbor side. Okay.
What do you do? I guess we had them there once before, but they disappeared.
Okay.
That was years ago.
Yeah, this has been an issue that really hasn't been addressed for a while now. I think that's why it's kind of caused some. Any comments at all from?
Yeah, I'm Colleen Weldon, 14 Baltimore Street. I agree with this proposal to have no parking on the harbor side of Washington Avenue. I also think that that is going to stir the pot a bit with people on the other side, some of which have hedges or fences right up to the paved road, sprinkler heads and whatnot. I think, I know that the road is wider than the pavement, but the encroachments have significantly impaired people's ability to get by and or park already. I also can report that a significant amount of granite was just delivered to that, 1 Washington Street on the point there. I don't see any granite curbing on his plot plan. It's currently under construction. He has installed a driveway where Baltimore Street used to be and has impeded passage of that road with 2 huge piles of granite pavers on the Nantucket Road end. I don't know what his plans are. None of that is on his plan, but I would hate to see it get installed and then have something like this go through where there should be parking there, and now he's prevented that. So perhaps a drive out there to check out what's going on the ground is a good idea.
Yeah, I saw that curb in there yesterday,
Yeah,
and there's a lot of it.
Yeah,
I was
there is.
trying to figure out myself as to where they were gonna put it.
yeah, I mean, he was just using sawhorses to close the road, and those were easily moved to still utilize Baltimore Street. The Roads and Right-of-Way Committee minutes mention that, the people that are against closing Baltimore Street understand the importance of working on, Washington Avenue, but we have certainly not, stopped our request for the taking of that Baltimore Street. The last time that I was before the county commissioners, they said it was still being worked on and it takes time and funding and whatnot, but I know they're 2 kind of separate issues, but they're really not completely separate, because it really would be a lot better situation for the buses to come all the way down to Baltimore Street and make that turn. And then there's the landscaping trucks and whatnot that block everything up down there as well, so. In terms of safety, closing off one side of parking will be good. The buses will do a lot better from D Street headed down to that hairpin turn, but it's still got some ways to go. And I
To
think
me, this is one of those where this vote should move forward with a notice to all the abutters along the entire right of way to remove their encroachments. Because if you're gonna, keep people off one side, they're gonna wanna go to the other, obviously. If they're on the other, and they're impeded from utilizing the full width of the right of way, now they're in the road. So to me, we're not gonna see true benefits here unless the encroachments from both sides are removed. And you may find if in doing that, you don't even need to remove traffic or parking from one side. You may still be able to maintain it. So I just think it's easy to just say, oh yeah, it makes sense, for whatever purposes to eliminate it from one side. But if there's already tremendous encroachment on both sides, if we take care of that first, then we can take a look at what makes sense for parking, if any restrictions, other than just at the intersection that's out there now.
Are you advocating for parking on both sides, or there
I'm
could be
not advocating for anything until
Okay.
we can make a true decision on how much right-of-way is encroached upon, and have those removed, so we
Okay.
can actually take a look at, what we have to work with.
We had a survey done out there back several years ago to find out where the bounds were, because remember at one time, they were even parking on the Nantucket Road with their wheels on the grass
Mhm.
of that property. So we had a survey done at one time.
Yeah, and a lot of this has come to light for 2 things. One, the construction on the triangular piece, but secondly, the NERDA year-round.
Mhm.
So they were using that as a turnaround, and it was convenient for that.
Mhm.
That's been taken away, and it's obviously exacerbated the neighbors' issues. And so I think there's a lot going on out there. And again, sometimes it takes a situation like this to sort of bring to light a lot of the encroachments that have been allowed to occur forever. And once you get those reined in, suddenly it's like turning the lights on. It's like cleaning your windows. All of a sudden, everything's brighter, and it works. We had a similar situation up the street a while back with grading of, I forget the name of the street, but it comes out Tennessee. Coming out Tennessee, removing the encroachments there really made a big impact to traffic flow and having people be able to park there without impeding traffic. And yeah, we were met with a number of people that were not happy, but it allowed us to cut back to the right of way and opened it up. You have an occasional person who is rude and will drive, unnecessarily fast, but for the most part, it works. So I would say, Jack, if you're aware that there's a survey that's been done, maybe we do some research into find out who did it. If you remember who did it, we can reach out and get a new copy of it.
I remember, I think it was through the DPW. Do you remember that, Ray?
I don't.
So both sides of the street they were having trouble, and the guy ended up moving his fences out closer to the road.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know we've had problems there, and that came up a while ago, but that's why that NRTA one was installed. That was a few years ago.
Right.
Patricia Stolte wasn't able to be here today, but I do know that if you look through the records, this is going back, we've been asking to have this addressed since 2014. So if we could, in the interim, get those signs until the encroachments are gone, I think that would make it a lot safer. That road is very heavily traveled. If you have time to go out there on the weekend and just give it a drive, it's very heavily traveled on foot, on bike. It's a safer route, more inland to all of those houses than staying on Nantucket Road and cutting over. It's a very busy route for people that have come in on their boat over on Jackson's Point, but they can't park there, so they have to park all the way over at the land bank property. So they're hiking back and forth, riding bikes back and forth. It's very busy there, and while I think it's great to move forward with telling people to remove their encroachments, I don't think that's gonna happen this summer, and somebody is gonna get hurt very badly out there. People don't stop at that F Street stop sign. A lot of times there are cars parked where they're not supposed to be, even with the signage there saying not to park there, and they're not ticketed. One guy had all 4 of his tires slashed last year right at that stop sign on Nantucket Road, and it sat there for like 4 days. It was a Hummer. So I don't know what the final answer is, but like for this summer, I really think that some signs to close off one side of parking for now might be a heads up to these people. Okay, well, if we get rid of the encroachments, maybe we'll have more space here. I don't think that some of them are going to be too happy about it, but at this point, we need that space to get vehicles, particularly boats on trailers, into our road. We can't. We have a boat down there that we can't get out right now because Mr. Turner keeps closing that road. So.
Art?
I think it would be more effective to simply, if it's possible, budget, but to stake out, just have a surveyor stake out the edges of the right of way. It's a straight shot, so you don't have to put a really lot of them in. And then, if you just send out a letter that said, I'm with you 100%, so the encroachments have to go. However, then people say, well, I don't know whether, I'm not, how do I even know I'm encroaching? How do we know that they're encroaching? Versus, it's fairly straightforward, area, I think, that you could simply, under one of the contracts the town already has, just have a surveyor put some stakes in and then send the letters and say, if you don't move the stuff back to those stakes, then we're gonna take it out.
Yep.
Okay, so Art, it seems like you're advocating for having survey markers put along the layout. An encroachment letter was to go out to the abutters. Looking at that, we still have the issue of the parking on one side or the other, whether that's something we'll allow it on both sides, no sides, one side.
I'm not in favor of that unless everybody's been notified of that intent on both sides and have an opportunity to be heard.
Okay.
Because so far I haven't heard from anybody that lives on Washington Street.
But it's a public road, so it's not their property.
Yeah,
but they're the ones inconvenienced, just like you're being inconvenienced now. They may be inconvenienced in another way we don't know about. It's only fair when somebody changes something that you've got, that you've been doing forever. You got fair warning and
We
notice.
haven't had any warning on Baltimore Street, and nobody's done anything about that for us.
Yeah.
That's
We're really
private
trying to
road.
keep the issues separate because we just have the one issue that we're talking about
He's
here.
sitting there telling me that they can't do this without notice, but this other guy can do whatever he wants without notice.
No, what I'm telling you is, I'm not gonna vote to do it without them having notice. You can do whatever the hell you wanna do, you know? I don't care.
Okay, so the
But
parking
that
still
Baltimore
seems,
piece is private as well. That's different.
It's very convoluted, it's in the butter's way, and it's not completely private to us.
Yep.
so
I would say,
start with the survey and the encroachment
Yeah.
letters, and then we'll address the parking request at a future date.
To the point of the old survey, I could be wrong on this, but it had to do with the split rail on the other side. I
Right,
think
yeah.
Joe Marklinger might have done it. Could be wrong, but I think so. Anyway, but that was out here anyway. It was along Nantucket Road that we
Okay.
were focused on. A split rail fence
Right.
had been our concern, so I don't know that necessarily.
There is one on the non-harbor side, I saw it this morning, I was trying to remember in my head.
And it,
There is one split rail pretty close to it.
and it would be, much less expensive, I think, for the town to have the stakes put in and obvious than to actually do a plan,
Yep.
right? Because why collect all that?
No, I agree.
You don't need all of the
Yeah, yeah.
information. You just need to see where the lines
Oh,
are.
if I'm in the meeting right now.
That's
Can you
fine.
call me back in about a half hour? About a half hour.
So, motion on the table?
Is there one?
Sure. I mean, I would make a motion to stake out each sideline of Washington Ave from F Street to Nantucket Road.
Second?
It's that simple as that? Just put the markers in?
I think that starts it, and then we could see where they are, and then
Yeah,
we can
yeah.
discuss encroachment letters. And in fairness to the chief as well, let's see what's going on.
Yep. I would say this, I don't think it needs to include anything having to do with notice of the encroachments, because as soon as they go in, I will take pictures and send them down to Erica to notice everybody,
Okay,
and we'll go from there.
so we'll leave that out of the motion, so motion to survey and,
Just to stake the sidelines.
Right,
Okay.
I think that's what we had done before.
okay.
And I think the committee could certainly take a look at what we have to work with once those encroachments are gone, to make recommendations regarding parking. That'll be fair, because
Yep.
it might be obvious that parking's fine on both sides, and now there's plenty of room to do that.
Okay, so still discussion, is this something the DPW would do under,
Yeah, I would second the motion for the stakeout,
and,
and we would follow through with that.
okay. Motion made and second, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That's unanimous.
So what happens now for us? Like, do I come back to the next meeting to hear how this went, or is this like a 3-month thing? I don't know how long any of this takes.
I think we're gonna wait till next month and just follow up, we'll just get an update from DPW on this, we'll just keep this item, Rob, as a, just like the Surfside Roads.
Yep, that'd be great.
Okay,
It's all gonna depend on availability of schedule.
exactly.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Item number 4, any other business not on the agenda? Is there anything else from anybody? Nothing to mention at all, so no other business. All right, how about approval of minutes? Any changes at all to the minutes that are included in the packet from May 16th? If not, I'll entertain a motion to accept the minutes.
If you accept the minutes.
Second?
In favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, it's unanimous.
Motion to adjourn.
All right, we'll adjourn. Is there a second?
Second?
Okay, motion to adjourn at 11:24. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, it's unanimous.
Thanks.